Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 184 in the Gospel of John. This is kind of a summary, the best of John. This is volume 2, and there's going to be 5 pearls today. Number 1. So John gives encounters with other people so that we can use our biblical imaginations to encounter him in that person. So for example, you put yourself in the story of Nicodemus, or at the woman of the well, as we'll talk about today, or Martha before Lazarus, or maybe at a miraculous event like the feeding of the 5,000 or changing water to wine. So the narrative allows us to insert ourselves into the story and then consider the same things that the people in the story were considering in their real time. So it allows every reader to challenges himself or herself with belief or maybe even hard unbelief. So Jesus kind of leaves a gap so that we can fill the gap with faith and belief, which is what John is all about. All right, that's the first one. Number 2, let's talk about Nicodemus. So Nicodemus, John chapter 3, so illustrating that, it's one of the greatest long-term stories in the Bible. The story is basically 3 years long. He goes from being a night disciple, so he kind of starts like all of us, scared and curious, and then he moves towards being brave and decisive. And Jesus gives him some of the greatest lines in spiritual history. You must be born again. Obviously, this blows his mind. So in that, you have to do something that's impossible. He says, how can I, crawl into a womb the second time? But he also says, I'm going to give you help to do that. So the Spirit is this unseen wind that's unseen, but not without effect. So at the end, he takes down Jesus from the cross at great personal risk, at great personal expense, and he calls us to kind of be like him, which is to believe and then act like it. So Nicodemus, a big star. So one of the great things that Nicodemus gets is the most famous verse in the Bible. And now the reason it's famous is not because of signs that are made about it, not because of rainbow afros that are used as sort of advertisement for it, but the reason it is famous is because of its reality and its promise and its clarity and its audacity and the bold summary of the whole Bible in a single line. Here it is. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. So that in that single verse, he hints at all these things. We find God's initiation, that God started this thing. We find his motivation, which is his love. We find his object of it, which is people, the world, which isn't, the planet, it's the actual people. And then how the process, he gives his only Son by suffering and crucifixion. Well, and then this crucifixion, we find out, hurts him twice, both to Jesus, because he's paying the price physically of the suffering, and to the Father, who has to watch it. So in it, that we're learning also that we're perishing, that perishing is a possibility. It's like, what? We better do something. Also, that eternity and eternal life is a possibility. And belief in him is what sort of gives us access to go from perishing to eternal life. So he gives those words to Nicodemus. Why? So that he can give those words to us. All right, number 4. That verse, the great news verse, God so loved the world verse, is tensioned with bad news. So why doesn't Jesus come to condemn is kind of one of the questions that's answered in John. Well, the reason is that without Jesus, we're all condemned already. We stand in condemnation. So that's why this massive rescue operation was launched in the garden. And by the garden, I don't mean the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean the Garden of Eden. So verse 18, John 3:18, whoever believes in him is not condemned. But whoever does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. So nobody stands as neutral. God didn't come down to separate people into good people and bad people. When Jesus encounters our earth, think about those two groups. The good group, good people, the ones who are okay, the ones who don't need to be saved. At the time of Christ's appearing, that group had exactly 0 people in it. So absent Christ today, this group has 0 people in it today. So then the bad group, well, that's the bad people, the people that are already under judgment, that have wrath, heading towards them, the people that are heading 90 miles an hour down the highway to hell. Who is that? That's everybody. That's 100% of people. That's billions of people. You may have heard the term, I'm okay and you're okay, except for one part, except for the condemnation part. All right, so Jesus engages conversation. It's one of the greatest things. This is the fifth point for today. Long-term conversations to move people's heart. Similarly, like Joe Rogan kind of does it today with his 3-hour podcast interviews. And so who does Jesus interview? So some of the famous people, Pilate and kings and stuff like that, but really the forgotten people are the stars of the show. So I'm thinking of the Samaritan woman in John chapter 4. She's a female, that's kind of strike one. She's a sinner. She's made some sexual mistakes before. She's used her sexual agency out of its intended marital purpose. And she kind of stands before Jesus sexually and spiritually transparent, as we all are. She quotes herself, and she says, he told me everything I ever did. And then culturally, she's the Samaritan, which is an offense that happened 500 years ago with the Assyrians, and it hasn't been forgotten or forgiven for 1 second by the Jews. So they're kind of viewed as this idolatrous, mis-worshiping culture. And Jesus sees that she is curious, which is the essential transformative spiritual characteristic, spiritual curiosity. This is the kind of person I can work with, Jesus says. So it is to her, the Samaritan woman, that Jesus offers living water. Now, living water isn't a liquid, it's the Lord. It's not from a hole in the ground, it's from heaven. And living water isn't temporary, it's timeless. So if Jesus can meet with the likes of these, Nicodemus, the Samaritan woman, he can meet with you. He can meet with you if, are we pure? No. Are we culturally or sexually or historically pure? Nope. So are we curious and workable? That's the real question. Are we ready to have a spiritual conversation? So Jesus leaves this gap so that we can fill the gap with faith. He leaves a gap for her and Nicodemus so they can fill it. Similarly for us, Jesus leaves a gap for us so we can fill it with faith. The big point for today is let's be like one of those people. Let's imagine ourselves in the story and let's, like them, be spiritually curious. Thanks for listening.